Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Absurd Curiosity Podcast, the only podcast where you can find three qualified, unqualified individuals talking about things we may or may not have a clue about. I'm your host among hosts, Cole Adam Davis. I am a pre-med student who is going to be graduating in December, hopefully specializing in some sort of personalized medicine, working with AI in the future. I'm joined by the always beautiful Stephen Pallotta.
Everyone, how's it going? I'm Stephen Pallotta. I am the club manager for Tesla Owners Club New York State.
Stephen? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to cut that out. Scotty?
I'm Scotty Smith. I'm pursuing a career in medicine and health education.
Joining us is Mark Hanchett. Can you tell us a little bit about you, Mark, and what you do?
Yeah, so Mark Hanchett, CEO and founder of Atlas Motor Vehicles, a electric vehicle startup and technology company focused on building technology and vehicle solutions for what I would call medium to heavy duty work vehicles.
Okay.
Particularly in the pickup truck industry.
One thing that we saw, right after the bat, you guys have started a Regulation A crowdfunding campaign. We're very excited to hear about that from you. What is a Regulation A crowdfunding campaign, and can you just explain to you why you're doing it, how this benefits Atlas, how it benefits the people that are supposed to, fund Atlas?
Regulation A crowdfunding is basically, you're familiar with crowdfunding, which is traditional crowdfunding is kind of like pre-orders, Kickstarter campaigns, and things like that.
Yes, sir.
There's since 2016, though, the SEC has approved basically what is called equity crowdfunding opportunities. So there's a Regulation CF equity crowdfunding opportunity, and then there's a Regulation A, and there's two types actually. And basically what this is it's an opportunity for a company to raise substantial amounts of money, not necessarily from traditional investors, but from potential customers, average everyday people that are very interested in getting in on kind of the ground floor of a startup or a company that is building something very interesting and something that they find innovative. Think of it as, instead of getting one or two or three angel investors, but pulling in thousands of angel investors. And you are buying stock within the company. It's not a pre-order for a product. You're literally investing in the company, and you become an owner of that company.
Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
definitely more of a community-based type thing.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Now, what does Atlas plan to do with all the money that you guys are crowdfunding for?
So right now, our focus with the $25 million that we're raising today is to, first of all, grow the team. So we're a team of roughly 35 today, 36 today. We are focused on growing that team up to a little over 160 over the next 9 months.
Oh, wow.
So we've got a lot of hiring that's going to happen. The second thing that we're very much so focused on is we grow a team. We have a small, low volume sort of warehouse space production facility that we're looking to build out. Now, COVID has sort of shifted our strategy a little bit there in terms of we have a lot more remote work going on, but that also means we get to do a lot more in that space that we had originally purchased before. So today we have 40,000 square feet. We're going to grow that to 80,000 square feet and working on building out that facility there. And of course, completion of taking some of the technology we're developing from proof of concept, prototype, right, and test to commercialization.
It's interesting too. The way that you're pulling in funds for Atlas is very similar to your overall your market. You're going for hardworking Americans or just any hardworking individual, and you're pulling in. You're saying we want you to be a part of the company initially. And I think everything that you do, everything that comes from the top is really showing at every level, just even from something like the crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we are customer driven in everything that we do, every decision that we make, every piece of technology we put in here. Even our own team members we're truck owners, we're truck enthusiasts, we're some of these people come from that blue collar background. Whether it's through family or early jobs they had and things like that. So there's a lot of that sort of culture built within the company. And we love the fact that Atlas being owned by our customer base means we're driven by their needs, their decisions, what they want. We're not driven by maybe external influences that don't align with where the market is going. Our investors are the market, and that's very empowering for them to drive our decisions.
Yeah, very cool.
No, for sure. They tell you kind of what they want, and y'all kind of can provide from that.
Yeah, I can give you an interesting story. We were doing a design update on the truck design. We were going through a set of features and things like that, and we use our customer base and our investors to reach back out to them. And it's interesting the amount of candid feedback we get now, because they are investors in the company, because they'll literally tell you, this is the most ridiculous, dumbest idea you could ever have. Like, knock it off. Don't do this. And that's that wake up call. You're like, okay, let's not go down that route.
Now, how do you guys filter, constructive criticism and, just like, oh, I don't like the design. You know what I mean?
So designs are always very polarizing. We try to focus on the appeal of that particular design, but we're very much so function driven versus sexy aesthetic design driven right now. So if we implement a feature, it has to be solving a problem.
Okay.
And problems are identified not by asking someone, hey, what's your problem? It's identified by talking with the customer base and saying, walk me through your daily life. What do you do? What are the things that you use most often? How do you use those things? And from that, you pull little snippets of problems. Then you go back and verify some of that stuff. Now, on the design side, it's a pickup truck in any automotive market, really, but the pickup truck market in particular is incredibly polarizing.
Yes.
And you have to take all of that feedback with a grain of salt. We may not meet the requirement of everyone.
I think we got a good understanding of Regulation A crowdfunding campaign, how it's going to help out Atlas. Now we want to get into the nitty gritty of Atlas and who you are and the whole organization. So, deep question to start off with is, why start Atlas?
So I get that asked a lot, of course, but I come from a background of building products that make a massive difference in the world. I cut my teeth in it from a career perspective, building little taser projectiles that are fired out of a 12-gauge shotgun shell. And that whole mission was to save lives. And after that, I moved into basically all that body cam footage you see today. I was leading teams in development in a number of those products out there, and working with under some crazy sort of, at the time at least, the technology we were developing in that space was impossible to the standards that others had done. And we were building out this very controversial product that has basically changed the world. I mean, you cannot argue against that today. And looking at the time at the automotive industry, it's not so much let's build an electric vehicle and just be another OEM playing in that space. I look at it as electrification allows us to change this market completely. We get to change the ownership experience, how you buy and sell vehicles, how you experience that vehicle throughout perhaps 20 or 30 years.
It sounds like, so you're trying to solve problems before they become problems. You're getting the solutions ready and implementing them before it actually ever comes up and says, oh, here's a problem that needs to be addressed.
Right. I don't want to chase problems. I want to find them before they occur. And then just as people come and say, for lack of a better description, hey, here's my problem. Oh, here's your solution.
I think you just nailed our second question of what is the main goal to set yourself apart from the wave of competition coming. And it kind of sounds like, you're kind of, instead of doing, this design looks great or this aesthetic looks great, you're going, okay, what are the working men looking for? What utilities do you guys need? And let's fulfill them and then worry about, design later. Am I incorrect on that one, or?
No, that is 100% correct. So a lot of people ask us, why don't we have a bunch of full-scale prototypes built out, driving around? Why aren't we, going that route? And what I will say is the underlying technology pieces are what solve those problems.
Mm-hmm.
The truck itself is actually relatively easy. It's getting that underlying technology to meet those requirements of those blue collar workers and even white collar sort of workers that are out there that own very big, very expensive trucks that use them. It's focusing on that, and then the truck body and everything else will come a little bit later. But that's the important thing, is you have to get that tech right. You have to get that experience right.
So with, it is Atlas is a startup company, and I know a lot of problems and obstacles can come with that, especially being the CEO of that of a startup. So what are some inherent problems that Atlas is having right now? What are y'all trying to solve, essentially?
So to do an automotive startup, it is a very capital intensive exercise. And if you don't have that capital, we have to find a way to overcome those challenges. That's a pretty common, pretty standard sort of obstacle that any startup faces. I would say our biggest obstacle is, yes, that exists, but it's overcoming doubt. So if you're really going to change the world, if you're going to push things forward, especially in such a very traditional, very sort of diehard, loyal customer base, you're going to be pushing against a lot of doubt in terms of what's possible from an electrification perspective in this particular space, and that is our biggest challenge.
What do you think the threshold for starting to pass up doubt for electric trucking will be? Like, is there a set standard in your head that you think, okay, we have to meet this, and then once we meet it, the tides will start to change?
So I think if you dig into like what incumbents are capable of doing today in like the gas and diesel world, and it's not, I'll caveat that, it's not real capabilities, it's perceived capability.
That is true.
Yeah, your diesel pickup truck can tow a lot, but it doesn't get 500 miles of range with that standard gas tank when you do that. It gets cut in half. It really does. So what we have to do is, what you're really facing is that overall experience of heavy loads, whether payload or towing, long distances, fast fill times, right? Fill times. And that overall sort of experience of this is just super easy for us to accomplish. That is the challenge that we have today. And that's the doubt you have to overcome, is that they don't believe that it's possible to do that with electrification. So we have to prove that.
And I'm actually, I was going to save this to later. I'm so intrigued that from what I understand, you guys are the first people to really go, okay, we need a dually. We need to be able to gooseneck haul. And for me, that was like, okay, these guys are serious. They're not trying to do the whole pickup market. Like Rivian and Cybertruck, they're probably great trucks, not going to hate on them. But they're not going for the niche that you guys are doing. Like, you're going for the people that are actually trying to get work done.
Yeah, I would always, I love this statement that never chase the competition, right? Choose your own path, carve your own path. And in my mind, if you're not going for that heavy hitter capability, especially in the work segment, you're going to have a really hard time converting the mass market, the mass majority of pickup truck owners that are out there. And the pickup truck is the pinnacle of the automotive world, right? It's not supercars. Supercars are cool, but pickup trucks, especially here in America, is the sort of the thing, right? When it comes to vehicles and stuff like that, everybody wants a pickup truck. Most people do. But what they want is that capability. They don't just want a pickup truck. They want that based on what it can do. So we need to deliver what it can do and then pull that market in.
We heard a little bit about some of the difficulties and the hurdles that are coming through from an outside perspective, which is gaining the trust, the respect, from these diesel guys and, maybe people that are in love with the idea of, even though Tesla's, young, they have a little bit of a history already. So you said, like, from an outside perspective, it's a little tough now. You have to say, how do we gain like you said, the respect, the trust. Yeah, the trust is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So now from an inside perspective, what are some of the hurdles that you have to go through as a startup company, or more specifically an electric vehicle startup company?
So we have to eliminate tradition where it hinders the ability to innovate and solve a problem. So we bring on people. We've got people from Tesla, Byton, Ford, GM, Chrysler, Faraday Future, a couple of people from outside this industry. And one of the largest challenges internally is there's a certain way that this industry is done. And if you really want to disrupt the industry, you can't just follow that path of innovation. You can't say, well, I'm going to go to a supplier and whatever they tell me is possible is the only thing we can do. So let's pay them $12 million to develop something and then give it to me and we'll plug it in. It's overcoming that thinking of just this is a supplier heavy dependent sort of a supplier dependent industry. It's very expensive. And if we can't go that route, we need to actually forge our own path and solve these problems internally. And that is not something that from my observation is very inherent in the traditional automotive industry. They don't think like that.
Now, do you guys plan on making majority of all the parts in-house, or do you guys try to like kind of sift like, okay, we have to get a little bit of suppliers here, but majority you want to keep it in-house, or am I incorrect on that?
I would say a majority of the technology we're developing, the core technology is done in-house. There are some caveats to that. We are not going to tackle, I would say, vehicle body structure changes and things like that off the bat. So think like a body in white vehicle body. Yes, we have a design, but we're looking for, and we're looking for in talks with partners to sort of close that gap because that's not a core thing for us at this point in time. However, the drive systems, the vehicle dynamic side of it, suspension, the frame structure, the frame will be built by someone else, but we're designing in-house.
Okay.
Components are manufactured out of house. Final assembly is done in-house.
Gotcha.
Technology it's sort of build to print versus here's a spec sheet, design and build to a spec sheet.
Okay.
That's fair.
So
Yeah,
it sounds like you're using a little bit of the new innovation aspect of the world, which is build, destroy until you get what you want, and merging it a little bit with some of what's worked well with Legacy Auto, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, there's some things that it doesn't make sense from a strategy perspective for us to try and reinvent today.
I mean, of course, that makes total sense.
Right. And then there are the things that, remember, it goes back to that core set of features that you just can't buy. And therefore, in that particular case, we need to tackle that challenge.
Now, one big challenge that, for a lot of people that are trying to get into EV trucking is, charging, the fast fill-up time, like you said earlier. You have been very adamant about bringing fast, affordable, and easy charging stations along with all your trucks.
Right.
Is this technology that you're building going to be proprietary, meaning that only Atlas trucks can go to your stations? Can other EV trucks go to it, or?
No, let me answer that question. Is it proprietary, developed in-house? Yes. Is it going to be opened up? Yes. Okay. We obviously we want to own the network and the experience, but we will basically open that technology up for other manufacturers, OEM vendors to say, hey, Atlas, you have this 1.5 megawatt station. We now have a big truck that could use that. Can we plug into it? Yeah, here's the documents, here's the specs, here's the CAD models for the connector, here's the communication protocols, here's how you get it done. Build this, plug in, away you go.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little bit of an
Nice.
off topic, but very similar to the whole charging aspect. Now, I've been looking at, I forgot if it's Kettleman City, but one of the Tesla supercharging locations, they're already working on setting up the charging stations for when the Cybertruck comes out. It has to be wider, it has to be a little bit longer.
Yes.
Sometimes I've seen these pictures online of a Model X, whatever it's towing out, a little mobile home on the back or a trailer. And what they end up doing is they park sideways and they take like 8 spots, which when it comes to an electric vehicle setup, like you can't do that. So what are you working on ideas already for your charging stations and to make it work with a vehicle that might be towing or, extra large vehicle?
Yeah. So I think the pull in and park model has worked great for the small compact cars all the way up to the sort of Tesla Model S, Model X vehicles, even Jaguar and Audi's new vehicles, because you typically don't tow.
Yeah.
But
Right,
when
right.
when we start thinking about towing vehicles, or you're hauling something heavy in the back or whatever that is, the pull in and park model doesn't work because of exactly what you just said. You have to like unhook your trailer, park it in a parking spot, go over and plug in, come back. If you're going to develop innovation in the world, never add steps to their day or their process.
Right.
Don't create complication with innovation.
That's a good point.
So our plan is to pass through drive-through stations. We're hoping to bring on, and I say hope because we're in negotiations right now, for an individual that has a lot of experience in this space that's going to be coming on board and start working on some of those relationships so we can get out there and in 2021 start deploying stations in partnership locations where sort of the drive-through workflow is already established today. Think fueling stations.
Okay, so like traditional
truck
fueling
stop, stuff like-
stations.
Yeah, and
Okay.
when you can get the charge time down to 15 minutes, that makes a lot more sense because you just pull in, you plug in, 15 minutes later, you keep driving through. It becomes a much easier thing to implement. If you're waiting an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to charge, a pull in and park and go do something else makes a lot more sense.
Before
Totally fair.
we move on to one that's a little bit different than charging, there's another question I want to ask specifically on charging. Have you looked into how difficult it is to pull the energy from the grid to supply it to the vehicles? I know that's one of the hurdles that Tesla's going through right now with their V3 supercharging, is that sometimes the grid literally just cannot supply the power that's needed. So I don't know if that's something where you would want batteries on site, especially if it's a location like I'm in New York, so you have the Adirondacks where there's not a ton of infrastructure. Would you just put battery packs on site and then have some method of whether it's renewables or something go to it? But yeah, how do you get that amount of, like you said, 1.5 megawatts? How do you ensure that you're able to pull that from the grid or at least get that to the vehicle?
Yeah, so initial strategy would be to pull from the grid and deploy in locations where we can do that very quickly. I'll give you an example. Here in Mesa, with our local utility company, pulling 1.5 megawatts is not an issue. In fact, when we asked them about it, they said, yeah, we'll get that done in a couple of months.
Wow.
It was just a very easy thing to do. But when you get to those more remote locations where infrastructure isn't necessarily set up to support such heavy loads, then it becomes an issue. And in those particular locations, it's not finalized yet, but we're working on a concept of, think of it like a drop ship container sort of installation method where we drop a container onto a cement pad, we plug into the existing sort of utility supply, whatever that might be, and on that container platform, we offer what I would call buffer battery solutions that would continuously charge at maybe a slower rate as it's providing energy from there. And then, of course, we dump energy from the large, massive battery packs into the vehicle during the charging process.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Now, how do you guys plan to roll this out? Do you guys plan on starting locally in Arizona and then just work your way out from the states from there? Or, like, what's the timeline on your... because this is no easy task whatsoever. Like, what's the timeline that you have before you think of, like, Texas having Atlas?
It's really customer driven. So where is our particular customer base? Where are those initial orders going to be? In terms of business strategy, we are an energy company, a platform company, and then a vehicle company. So the energy and platform company are the first two sort of pillars that are going to start generating revenue. And by pushing the platform out to, we'll call them upfitter companies that are looking for electrification and heavier duty vehicles, that'll give us the opportunity to start building out the charging infrastructure locally within those areas where they operate. And think highway corridors will be the primary sort of focus there. So 2021 will be focused on early partner deployments where they're specifically located locally within those regions. That allows us to, one, facilitate a great customer experience for them, two, test and validate before we try to roll this thing out nationwide and run into a large number of problems, as we've seen with that it happens with other vendors. And then to facilitate locations where that's not available, integrate with existing charging solutions that are out there. CCS being the most obvious one. Yes, Tesla would be a great thing, but working with Tesla so far has not been the most positive experience.
Really?
Mostly because we try to contact them, we try to get in touch with them, they don't answer.
They don't respond, do they?
Yeah, they don't care.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, so that's totally fine. You don't want to respond, we'll just push over it and keep moving and see you later. But,
all you can do.
Yeah.
I think that's the best response, because you can move on from there rather than them twiddling their thumbs like, oh, are we going to give it to you or not? You know what I mean? You know, like, okay, they're not going to help us. Let's keep
you can't
going.
wait around.
Yeah.
There's no point. So, as the CEO of Atlas, what are some of your own personal, immediate, and long-term goals with your leadership and or with the company, if you have any?
Yeah. So my personal goal and sort of immediate goals for the company is to continue building the right team to accomplish our goals. So this is not something I can do by myself. It's not something that even the current 35, 36 person team can really accomplish. So right now our biggest goals are building the right team so we can execute cleanly, so we can get this stuff done, to get product to market. That's the most important thing right now.
So that's your more of a immediate concern or immediate goal?
Yeah, my immediate goal is that. And then with that, because we're very much so, how do I put this? When you're doing crowd-funded sort of equity fundraising, the way to think about this is your product that you're selling, which generates funding coming in, is continuous successful execution of everything that you say you're going to do. So if we're going to hit $25 million, we need to build the team. We need to continue to execute on those objectives and everything that we say we're going to do, which gives confidence to the market that Atlas is a great investment, that we're the right company to follow and get involved with, which then allows us to bring in more funding, which allows us to continue to be successful.
What does it take to build the right type of team? Who are you looking for as far as like the roles, like the actual jobs that need to be created and made? And then what are some of the traits, the personality traits, characteristic traits of the individuals that you're hiring that either stand out to you or things that you at least look for in a candidate?
Yeah, that's a really great question. There's a large number of roles that we're looking for, but you could really summarize them in terms of hardware engineers, mechanical engineers, manufacturing engineers, firmware engineers, software engineers, right? The typical technical roles that are out there.
Right.
We're very much so an engineering company, less so a marketing sales company. So we're heavy on the technical side. Now, in terms of skill sets, I mentioned earlier that traditional automotive skill sets, there's a lot of sort of break down the mentality, rebuild it that has to occur to do things different. So we don't technically focus on, I'll say this, having a degree is nice, but experience matters more. I would say that if we're looking for people where I could hire you as a hardware engineer to say work on the what we call a car pie, which is a control module that goes into the body. And if I need you to switch gears and work on the motor controller, I need people that can jump from one to the other, that have never done this other thing before, but can research it, understand it, learn from it, build it, execute it, and move forward, and not be afraid to fail when they do that. So I get that this is hard. I get that it's challenging. Don't be afraid to fail. Just be able to overcome that failure and push on.
So learn fast and break things.
Yeah.
Well, not break things, of course, because you got a budget. You got a budget here, but
I got a limited budget, man.
but overall, a jack of all trades. I saw one guy on your LinkedIn. I think was this James, maybe. He came directly from Tesla, and his description was like, he came from Tesla. He was in nuclear at one point, I believe, and he flew helicopters.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Chris.
that is an impressive guy.
Oh yeah. Chris Dawson.
Yeah, Chris has a lot of valuable experience, but what I love about Chris is when we say, hey, this is how we're thinking about doing this. He says, okay, let's figure out how to do that. Let's figure out how to get that done. It's not, well, nobody does that, so maybe we shouldn't.
That's a brilliant person to have, like, in life in general. It's just like, let's get this done. Let's have fun doing it.
Let's find the solution. Let's be okay with failing, like you said.
How big of an issue do you believe towing and battery life is going to be, especially like with Gooseneck? Because you can't. I mean, from what I know, and it's very little about electric towing, adding a trailer kills a Model X's battery life. And
I think about in half, roughly.
Roughly in half, and they're not even doing Gooseneck towing.
Yeah.
Have you
they're
guys
not doing heavy towing?
Yeah. Have you guys done any calculations that give you an idea of like, okay, this is what we're gonna get theoretically with gooseneck towing with this type of trailer or whatnot, or is that just a calculation you can't make until you have the trailer in front of you and other things?
Right.
What I will say is never get into something like this if you haven't done at least some calculations before.
Speaking from personal experience, or
yeah, I spent the first year or so doing technology discovery and understanding the physics limitations and things like that to make sure we could do this. Because if there's any little thing in there that you forget about or that doesn't quite add up, it's going to be a slap in the face down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that, right? We've seen that in this industry where promises are made and then you can't deliver because really you didn't understand the physics of the problem in the first place. So to answer your question about towing, and when we start thinking about what I call real towing loads, right? So up to 35,000 pounds, yes, you're going to start with a range, right, of mileage, say 500 miles, and that mileage is going to drop as that payload and
heavier.
Drag coefficient goes up, right, and your rolling resistance goes up. All of those things affect it, and that comes down to, okay, what's an existing experience today with like a gas or diesel truck? Okay, back up. How do we meet that? And I don't know if you guys can see me, but I'm making a bunch of hand motions.
Oh, yeah, that's the best way to talk.
You start there and you say, okay, back up. How do we step through this to get there? What are the trade-offs that we make to get there? Okay, can we do this? Is it a possible? And the biggest thing that comes up is, okay, we start at, let's say we'll pick an easy number, 500 miles of range. We start at 500 miles. We fully load this thing. And all of a sudden, we're only getting 150 miles or 140 miles of range at that like 35,000 pound payload. Well, we can tow 35,000 pounds, but you can only do that for a couple of hours, right, driving down the road before you have to plug in and fill up. Believe it or not, that is not much different than your experience in a pickup truck today.
Really?
But the challenge is, when that happens in a pickup truck today, is you go and you fill it up at the gas station or with diesel fuel. It only takes maybe 10 minutes at the most.
I was going to ask you, a full diesel tank, how long would that roughly take to fill up on a pickup truck?
It takes about 5 minutes to fill it up on like a standard 33-gallon tank, roughly. But the whole experience can be about 10 minutes, right?
Okay.
There's pulling in, parking, getting out, doing all stuff. Maybe you go and grab something, all that. So let's say 10 minutes. So how close can we get to that? And today, it doesn't make sense to do that and then say, well, drive for 2 hours, park for 2 hours.
Oh, yeah, of course. And
it's very inefficient, for sure.
And the technology you guys have developed, a 15-minute charge time, is fantastic. And I think I was talking to Carol the other day, and she said that you guys... Correct. I was saying it right, Steven. Wow.
I wasn't sure.
He kept making fun of me. It's
like, Corral?
But anyway, Corral, I apologize. You guys reached in-house 9 minutes. Is that true?
Yeah, 9 minutes, 26 seconds is the fastest time we've achieved in-house with basically using a bunch of off-the-shelf components to prove that the technology, the concept, and the solution works.
Can you tell us what the battery pack size is on that, or is that undercover?
it's a small battery pack because we're doing it in a lab environment,
Of course.
not necessarily a large environment. Now, pack size, I will say, doesn't necessarily matter. It does matter, but if I can quickly explain why it doesn't matter.
Please do.
I was going to say that I'm really fascinated.
For sure.
Yeah, so no matter how big the pack is, you can only pump so much energy into each cell.
Mm-hmm.
So
Gotcha.
it doesn't matter if it's a 100 kilowatt hour pack, a 1 kilowatt hour pack, or a 0.1 kilowatt hour pack. Each cell can only accept so much energy at such a rate.
Mm-hmm.
So as you go from like a single cell to a big 250 kilowatt hour pack, if the single cell can only charge in an hour, 250 kilowatt hour pack can only charge in an hour. Doesn't matter if you have a megawatt station there.
Gotcha.
Nothing changes.
It's not just the amount of energy that you're throwing at it. It's all ratioed in a sense.
Right. Now, where a larger pack becomes an issue is on thermal management. So,
Right.
what you truly have to do is you need to get each individual cell's impedance or resistance down as low as you possibly can, much low, like a tenth of what you see today, in order to minimize the amount of heat that is generated while you're doing this.
Okay.
So that is actually the larger challenge, and that is part of the proprietary sort of cell technology that we're developing today. That's actually a fundamental thing that we started with, was thermal management.
Interesting.
So that's where going from one cell to a big pack matters.
What kind of image are you trying to build of Atlas, and like kind of what type of barriers are you guys trying to break in regards to that?
We want Atlas to be this like sort of visionary company of when you think, hey, I need a vehicle that like does all these incredible things like towing and can be beat on, and it's very durable, right? We want to become that sort of flagship company, or that image of what that truly means. So when people think, man, I want to tow, I want to haul, I want to throw wood in the back of this thing, throw block in there, dirt in there, I want to go off road, maybe use this in like various different industries out there. We want people to think Atlas sets the bar in terms of that capability when it comes to electric vehicles in the future of what this sort of environment or this ecosystem looks like.
So where Rivian's going for that, Range Rover kind of hyper luxury, Tesla's going for futuristic. Still, I mean, what they're going on with the steel is very impressive as far as toughness, but where your appeal is the hardworking, everyday go-getter, problem
functionality,
solver.
essentially.
Yeah.
And I mean,
even though the body and the design looks beautiful,
It does.
like that, y'all's primary goal is in turn, this truck needs to be able to provide a job and provide work, do work for people.
it's funny because whenever the Cybertruck came out, obviously, I mean, you guys are an EV startup, and every EV startup sadly is compared to Tesla. Whenever the Cybertruck came out, I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about it. It kind of grew on me, but my blue-collar uncle that does a lot of hauling, towing, and he's a diesel mechanic, he was like, yeah, man, I don't want to look like a douche driving down the street.
Well, you guys have a thing on your Instagram. I think it's I need a workhorse, not a show pony. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
So that
that's
was
a
the
quote
line?
from one of our investors.
That's funny. I like that. I like that quote a lot.
Right now, me and my dad are rebuilding a 53 Chevy in our garage, and it's a beautiful truck, and it's got a nice V8 in it, but it brought to me, you guys are building this XP platform technology, right? And I saw that you guys were offering it to OEM manufacturers, but it really got me thinking, what's the, price point that you guys want to hit for the skateboard technology, so an independent guy like me and my dad can, bring this skateboard into the garage, put that body or chassis, if that's even possible, on our 53 Chevy and have a fully electric badass truck.
So, I mean, I would love to be the company that like makes that possible, right? That sort of, I think that classic vehicles in general, they have to live forever in some way, shape, or form. That industry, that's a culture, right? That's a community. That's an industry that is awesome and amazing. And somehow we need to be able to make sure that lives forever. And I would love to be the company that brings solutions to that particular industry that allows them to sort of transition from, everybody loves their old gas V8 engines and the sound that the exhaust makes and stuff like that.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. You can't replace it.
You can't until you sit in an electric vehicle and you feel how hard that thing pushes you back in the seat.
Oh yeah.
And that's a totally different experience. It's this introduction of like this new beautiful thing, and being able to provide that. Now, our ultimate goal is to get what I would call a 300-mile range capable platform in the 27K range. In terms of like basically complete
for the platform itself.
Yeah, and that would come with the steering system, which is steer-by-wire, the pedal assemblies, which all is brake-by-wire, steer-by-wire, or brake-by-wire, and all that. That would come with basically the dash and infotainment screen system, so you can implement that into whatever vehicle it is that you're building, and basically you have a running driving solution.
What do you think the biggest hurdle for making that XP platform available for like trucks and cars for like classic?
The most obvious hurdle is that it may not fit every chassis configuration and setup. So in which case we're looking at, it is broken up into modules. It's a drive, suspension, steering sub-module that's identical front and rear. It's a battery pack module. And then you have the steering controls and everything else. So is it possible for us to supply either a platform or a set of modules that you can then fabricate the integration with into those vehicles to be able to facilitate that? It's that integration with things that are non-standard with something that is standard that I think is like the biggest challenge. But we've talked to some of the hot rod shops and some of the fabrication shops that are local here. We've got another one in California that's very interested in what we're doing. And they love this idea that they can plug in and very easily build a custom electric badass vehicle for a customer. And it's electrified and very simple and very straightforward for them.
Yeah, because that's what we're looking for in our truck is just burn rubber. That's basically it, I mean, it's not great for the environment, but it's, it's just super fun.
It doesn't matter. It's fun.
Come on, Mark.
But look, the plus side about Atlas is that it is better for the environment.
Yeah, part of the mission is if we can show what's possible in a work vehicle, and then we can provide that technology to some of those segments of the market that is really, its foundation is in the diehard history of like the automotive world, and bring those two together. On the work side, if you can demonstrate high towing capability, long ranges, faster charge times, that's what everybody wants, right? And they'll never look back at their diesel truck. It would be ridiculous to look back and say, man, that thing was awesome. It can kick my electric vehicle's butt.
Oh yeah.
In this case, no. But the moment you make that shift, they'll never look back, and they'll be pulled across faster and faster and faster and faster. But you have to be open.
Yeah, I've asked some of my buddies who own either diesel or gas, pickup trucks, Dodge, Ford, whatever it might be, and the question is, would you get an electric pickup truck? If it basically looks just like yours, but it's electric, would you get it? And they said if it could do everything that mine can do today, and if it can excel in certain ways that are better, then I'd consider it. And I think especially when you factor in the cost of fuel into a truck, that's something that could be, an absolute, okay, this just makes sense for us.
So I will tell you that a reasonable person will say that the cost of fuel is a big driver in whether or not they buy a pickup truck. And then you have me. And when I bought I bought the pickup truck I own today when gas was $4.35 a gallon, and I never flinched once when I was filling it up. And I can tell you that.
What do you drive, by the way?
It doesn't. I drive it's a 2013 GMC Sierra with the 6.6 liter Duramax in it.
Oh, that's nice.
I will tell you that sometimes reason does not play a role in your decision making, particularly in the truck world. But for fleet operators and corporations and people that use their vehicle for work, it very much so does. If if you own a fleet of say 20 trucks and you could spend a quarter of what you spend every year in fuel, they will run after that. They will chase after that.
Same. Do you think the same carries over for municipalities, for government, saying, "Oh, bottom dollar, this just makes sense"? Like,
I was going to ask about like maybe military.
Yeah, the military is looking at it. The military is a very long lead time.
Right, of course, naturally.
But for municipalities, those decisions are made mostly based on cost and whether or not you can cost versus the bare minimum to meet the requirement.
What Atlas technology will transform, the electric truck or the electric vehicle industry?
Yeah, I think the initial sort of technology that we're launching is centered around the most obvious thing, which is the battery technology. And being able to accommodate that very similar experience of long range, heavy towing, very fast charge times, that's similar to long range, heavy towing, real fast fill up time.
Mm-hmm. And
that is that sort of, that's kind of what I call a sexy, cool thing that everyone's like, yeah, that's, yay, that's what I was looking for. Where I see Atlas, because I don't view us as a automotive OEM company that's just selling trucks. It's how we're going to, the long-term sort of advantage or approach is how we're bringing different technology solutions together to actually create to become a solutions provider, not just give you a vehicle provider, but how can we leverage this technology to provide you with multiple different vehicles for the different applications you have in your place of work or a solution you need? How can we become a platform and ecosystem provider for vocational vehicles, cement trucks, dump trucks, box trucks, like all of that stuff? And how do we accelerate that and bring it into this ecosystem so it's a very seamless operation?
What's your opinion on hydrogen fuel cells being in, the heavier duty, like you said, the dump trucks, pickup trucks, stuff. I mean, not pickup trucks, but dump trucks, cement trucks, stuff like that, 18-wheelers.
Semi-truck.
Yeah. What are your ideas in...
So I don't
mentioning companies.
No. I mean, there's a lot of companies doing it. So I think that I don't think hydrogen is a smart approach to that. Like,
I don't either.
It's a perceived immediate benefit to a technology or problem, particularly around batteries and charge time, that I think in the next 10 years is going to advance so much that it's going to make investments in hydrogen obsolete. Yeah. So basically, hydrogen is more complex, less efficient, higher cost, versus take all of that investment, put it into battery technology, put it into vehicle architecture and solutions, and this sort of BEV path will accelerate much faster than this hydrogen path can. And basically, it's going to pass it. I would predict in the next 5 years it's going to pass it. I would say with the technology that we're developing at Atlas, it makes the argument of fast fill-up times obsolete. So the only other thing you have left is longer range, and that's coming.
I think a lot of people that are not into EVs, they're like, oh, I'm gonna go hydrogen because it's that like immediate, like it battery technology hasn't caught up to it yet. But like a lot of people don't recognize that you're gonna have to charge the battery and also fill up with hydrogen at the same time. And I don't think people understand that with hydrogen technology.
Yeah, I won't name names, but I will.
I think we all know who we're talking about.
This idea that you get 300 miles of range with a battery, and then you add another 300 with a hydrogen system, and somehow you're going to fill that up with hydrogen in 15 minutes or less, and that's going to cover all 600 miles of range. That, to me, in the way that's described, doesn't make sense. A serial hybrid system doesn't work that way.
No.
If the battery's dead and the tank's empty, you could fill the tank up, but it still has to charge the battery. So it's really 15 plus however long this takes.
Yeah.
Whereas, and then there's all that complexity that's there. And that's applicable to even internal combustion serial hybrid vehicle. Why do that? If the battery's dead, if the battery's small, and it's just inefficiency. Put your money into this to deliver that experience. if you don't believe it can be done, then find someone that can
do it.
come up with a solution that can do it.
What does it take to successfully lead a team, especially one that has a task so challenging as yours?
I don't know if I could answer that question and say like I've done anything successful in like doing that. I would say that as a CEO and a founder of a company like this, it's crazy important that the team understands that as any leader in any company, you have their back, that you're trying to drive things forward, that you're going to take care of the team because they are going to do some things that are very hard, very challenging. There are going to be some ups and downs, and you can't have that like baseline negativity just continue to follow that path. You have to be positive when, I'm going to swear a little bit, I guess, but
This is
when
perfectly
shit
fine.
goes wrong, when shit goes wrong, you can't stop. You can't just be like, oh, that's it, guys, we're done.
Right.
You have to just be like, okay, that went wrong. Let's do this. Let's move past this. Let's push forward. Let's keep going.
So
But at the
morale and moving
Resiliency.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
morale, resiliency, and also making sure that no one is blocked.
Mm.
So if somebody's hit a wall, your job is to help them push through that wall.
Right.
And that will inherently happen with the smartest, most brilliant people in the world. Everyone hits that wall at some point. And you just have to be that person that's standing next to them when they're beating on that thing with their fist. And if you have to step in and do that yourself, right? Take that beating for a little while and then sort of trade back and forth. That's the best analogy I can say is just that's the best leaders are the ones that sort of help people push through. But I will say that I'm just the CEO and founder of Atlas Motor Vehicles. I am not Atlas Motor Vehicles. Atlas Motor Vehicles is our team. Atlas Motor Vehicles is our customer base, right? The people that we're building this product for, it's that community that's there. So we will forever be successful as long as that team sort of continues to move forward and continues to either support us from the outside or on the inside, continues to execute.
I got a question. When can we start to, visit the factory and see, the truck that, you're building?
Yeah, so I would say that anybody who's interested to come by and visit the factory, we do ask that people sign NDAs, but you're more than welcome to if we can find time for you to come by and chat with us, we make time. We've had quite a few people come by.
Seriously, so there's not like on 2020, August of 2020, we'll have an unveiling of hey, you want to come by, see the updates, see the progress, come by next week.
It's really hard to keep a secret when we keep posting everything on social media. So
that is true.
The other day, I was looking at highlights for the Baja 500, and I was looking at the prototype and then the trophy trucks that race on the Baja. Do you think you would ever be? Do you think one of your down the road goals would be to build a kick-ass Baja 500 electric truck to compete and show up all those different trucks, or is that just not even a thought?
No, that's how you do it, right? That's how you go out there and say we are better. It's you tow more, you haul more, you race faster. I want to do King of Hammers personally.
I've never heard of that. What is that?
That's
What's King of Hammers?
Oh, you guys got to look that up. Yeah, think of it like Baja plus rock crawling plus. It's an intensely abusive.
Is that out in Arizona?
Race. No, it's where's that at? I want to say it's like Utah or something like that. California, actually.
Okay.
And look it up. It's crazy.
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, and that's what I would love to do.
Where can our listeners find out more about your work, Atlas's work, or is there any social medias? I mean, obviously you've got the Instagram. Is there any important events that you would like to promote as well?
The biggest thing that we talk about right now is, of course, the Reg A campaign, fundraising. We can't grow the team. We can't make progress, right? We can't move things forward until we raise that $25 million. So
Okay.
get on the website, www.atlasmotorvehicles.com, or sorry, invest.atlasmotorvehicles.com. Check out the offering. This is an opportunity to get in very early on with the company, and we, be a part of something big, be a part of something great. We're going to change the world, and we want people to go along with us and be successful as we're successful.
Thank you, Mark, so much for coming on, and everybody listening at home on the podcast, thank you so much for watching. It's been a brilliant time. Go out there and have a brilliant week. It's been great talking to you guys.